Is the ice melter a sword that saves a village or a hockey stick that makes hockey? Tune in to find out.
Yes! We're going to find out. We're going to make it happen right now. Let's do it. We're going to do it. Ice Melter came out of the hat, came out on top. No Powder Jones tonight. We didn't cross his path.
We scrolled through a lot of beers.
It's too quick. We did. We did a
Fast
lot
Five.
of beers. We got deep in the Fast Five. But as always, came out with one feature, Ice Melter. So what are we thinking, John? We both really didn't know what the heck it was. We just kind of had that magical feeling that this is it.
I mean, like Cliffhanger, utterly forgettable Sylvester Stallone movie where he's a guy that climbs the mountain or something like that and ends up in trouble.
Stuck somewhere.
Someone decided that they were going to make that movie and call it Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
We're doing this in reverse. We decided that Ice Melter is going to be a movie.
It's going to happen.
And we're going to figure out what the movie is.
That's a good inspiration, Cliffhanger. Maybe this is, before we even get to plot and anything, this is an 80s action movie. That's the vibe.
Ooh.
Is Ice Melter. So that helps me at least kind of see, is it Sylvester Stallone? Is Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie? Is this the one movie Jesse Ventura could have been the lead in, but decided to be the governor of Minnesota or whatever? Instead, Ice Melter. Jesse. So it's an 80s action movie. What else? What do we know about it? If that's true, let's play that out for a minute.
If it's an 80s-ish action movie, then there's going to be one super buff guy that is kind of out of place.
Yes, 100%.
In the small village or city that he's ended up in.
Okay.
And eventually there's going to be a female that's kind of like the quest giver that helps him find what he needs to do. Or maybe he has to help her.
Yep.
It doesn't start as a love interest, but of course it ends up there for a minute.
Of course.
And then what happens at the end of those? It's a big fight with the person that has become our protagonist's main villain.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the culmination of the movie. Then the love interest and the buff guy go back to that weird village that he didn't feel at home.
John, I think I have it.
Yeah. Good, I just wrote the thing. Said every 80s
right.
action film writer.
I don't know how it came to me, but it's like someone was talking in my head, but in the same room as me, and inspired this whole movie. Okay, so I see. All right, so I'm basically taking your structure that you just laid out. Here it is though, as we drape Ice Melter, right? Ice Melter
Ice
over
Melter.
it. So we're in a small mountain town covered in snow. We're in the mountains somewhere. I've said that a couple times. We're in the mountains somewhere. Maybe it's Colorado. Maybe we don't really know. But snow-capped mountains, everything snow. And the town.
So we got snow. We got mountains.
We got snow and mountains. I'm
keeping track at home.
100% on that. 110%. So, and like it opens up with like you see people like kind of going into their cellar and gathering jars of food or putting jars of food on a shelf. You see a bunch of trucks coming in with rice and grain, and you see people kind of boarding up a few of their windows, checking on their log piles. Clearly, like, people are getting ready to what it looks like maybe, not go places, or hibernate a bit.
Kind of like the ant and the grasshopper.
Okay.
In the fable.
Yes.
We're getting ready.
We're gathering. Yeah, he wants to play. The ant wants to work. I remember. So, yes. So that's all happening. And you kind of learn through talking and overheard conversations and stuff that,
I hope this one's not as bad as last year.
Basically, the valley they're in always gets snowed in every winter, and they can't leave because the one tunnel always gets covered with an avalanche, and they don't know good avalanche prevention techniques in this.
I mean, do they even exist?
Does that even exist? You're right. Man can't always beat nature. Sometimes you just got to let the avalanche fall and, eat canned potatoes for 3 months. And so that's this small village, the village of something Berg.
I was going to say Dansville.
Dansville. Well,
but no, Berg's good. It implies like a little more Germanic and like isolation. Hendersburg? No.
How about
Stroudsburg?
Stroudsburg. Okay, perfect. Stroudsburg. We're in Stroudsburg in the mountains, about to be snowed in for a couple months. And so that's the way it's always been. You grow up in the town, you kind of know for 3 or 4 months, you're just snowed in. And as a kid, all the elders in the village are like, don't worry, we all have plenty of supplies. And it really doesn't matter. You're a kid. You get to play in the snow or not, whether the pass is covered in avalanche. You don't really care.
How big is this? Are we talking like population 1,000, 500?
Let's say 500.
Okay, so it's like it's a community, small town.
Yep.
People know each other.
Yep, exactly right. Like, but they got to be kind of self-sufficient, and they've worked out where they're getting a bunch of supplies, so things should be fine. They get it all trucked in and ready. Any day now, the pass is gonna fall. My grandpa says it always happens on the last Sunday of the coldest night of the whatever. Yeah. There's a little bit of lore and stuff that goes along with when the avalanche is going to drop. And so this is all kind of setting up the background of like eventually all the supplies they got are going to catch fire or be destroyed, something. They need this year to get the heck out of this valley somehow.
Like the avalanche happens during the supply run and all the trucks get locked in the tunnel.
Maybe that's part of it. Sure, that's easy where it just happens too soon.
Okay, no, I like where you're going. Like we still think everything's okay. Happens all the time. We got our supplies. Yeah, we're good. Tunnel caves in at some point. When it caves in, and then something starts to happen.
Right. It melts in the spring and we're all good. And high mountains, too high for a helicopter, blah, 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 all that stuff. So they can't get out. And so obviously we're making a movie about it. So this year is different for some reason. And it's because everything's going to go to shit and they're going to need to get out. And that's where the ice melter will come into play. But before we get to what I think the ice melter could be, let's take, it should probably, in terms of characters who we actually follow in the movie, I'm imagining like, oh man, so it's going to be kind of like high school age kids, I think, is what we'll do. We're going to do younger kids are going to save this town.
Okay.
So instead of Arnold,
like instead of like movie, this 80s is Goonies. Action, it's like Goonies.
Yes,
love
this is Goonies instead of Commando.
Absolutely
so
love it.
We're pivoting a little bit.
And thanks for saying that, because I was like, when do we get into the fights?
Who's going to be shirtless? Arnold naked in the snow. That's what the world wants to see.
But no shrinkage.
No, he can't. Too many steroids. It's already happened. So we're pivoting slightly. This is more Goonies than it is over the top. Now, so high school kids, and I'm imagining the dynamic of like, the pretty girl who is shy and smart. We're going to go classics here. The jock who sucks, but will need his strength later. And he's a jerk and kind of the foil at the beginning of the movie. And then the lead guy, we'll do a dude this time. And his younger brother are kind of like not cool, but not nerds. They're just kind of, maybe like from like kids. From like that part of town, that like the working class part of town. It could be that like this is like a fancy schmancy rich person valley where they're like, we love the isolation. It's so good for my yoga and my skin and my routine and blah blah blah. But those people got to eat, got to go to a supermarket, got to have teachers teach their kids crap. And so all the working class folks in this town kind of live in one part of it. and that's where our protagonist lives. The jock guy is one of the rich kids' sons, so there's a bit of a class thing happening. Those are kind of the important ones, and the girl and the guy and the brother are going to be like the main three. So let's talk about them for a minute. Let's pick some names. Let's give them a little bit of a backstory, and then I'm going to share a legend about the town, and we can get into what
I'm excited already.
What the fuck happens?
Okay, so
I hope you're excited in a couple minutes because it's going to get weird.
The main protagonist and his younger brother.
Yeah.
These are okay. So it kind of gives me like Danielson versus the original Brad, but that wasn't his name. Wasn't Brad? I can't remember it right now. And the Karate Kid just rehappened.
Yes.
It gives me those vibes.
Yes.
And in fact, that Danny was a poor kid, and blonde haired guy came from wealth.
Yep. See.
So like in my head, I'm envisioning someone of that Danny Russo vibe.
Yeah. Me too. As was I.
I feel like Michael
Perfect.
is a good, like, is 80s. Like, we're not into any sort of crazy names or anything like that.
Correct. We haven't gotten
Michael's
there yet. No
a biblical
battery
name.
Or Apple
He's an archangel. Like,
yes.
So there's like a savior quality built into the name.
Perfect. Michael, love it. Loves jean jackets. He likes is the 80s. His favorite band is, I don't know, Def Leppard. That doesn't really matter though. It's not gonna be a music movie.
Okay, fair. Because that felt. I was like, can it be Def Leppard? I feel like that's Brand. I feel like in my head his name is Douchebag Kid.
Yeah.
But I know he's gonna have a story arc. So, but I think if it's an '80s movie, even if it's a little on the nose to produce today, I want his name to be Brad, because
let's have him be Brad.
That if you're an affluent white couple in the 80s and you have a son, you genetically make sure that he has blonde hair,
correct,
chiseled jaw,
correct,
and you name him nothing but Brad.
Brad has to be Brad. That's where all the Brads came from. There were no Brads before the 80s, and they all were born then, and there aren't any more Brads that have been born since.
So true.
Fact. Yep, and he's got blonde hair, kind of in like a coiffed mullet, so it's not cool. Starter, varsity jacket, all that stuff. What's the name of the high school? They live in a valley in the snow. I guess it probably wouldn't be football. Maybe it's hockey they play. Let's have the high school be a fun name, like a fun mascot, like the Stroudsburg Valley. Oh, you know what? It could
Groundhogs.
Be? Okay.
2 more weeks of winter or whatever it is. But
I was thinking, so it could be like the oh man, how about like the Stroudsburg Valley Ice Giants? We'll call them that. So
Ice Giant, or the Avalanche.
Or the Avalanche. That makes sense. It does really dictate what the heck happens in their town. That's good. All right, cool. So we'll do that. So he plays hockey for the Avalanche.
Brad does.
Yeah. And
Michael, not a sports kid.
Maybe he likes hockey, but got beat up.
He plays like street hockey.
Yeah, he plays on like a pond in his backyard. He's exceptional at it. And his brother, we need him his brother too. Is much younger. Let's say he's 7. If Michael's 17 or 18, last year in the Valley before he gets out.
I dig that.
His brother is probably 10 or 11. And his name loves Michael, follows him around like a lost puppy dog. And his name is...
Tommy's the first one that comes to mind.
Love it.
Like, Mike, this is my brother Tommy.
Yep.
He goes by Tommy. Mike does not go by Mikey. Don't call me Mikey.
Don't do it. Don't call me Mikey. It's Michael.
I'm getting out of this town. I'm going to go to the city. I'm going to make something of myself.
Make something of myself.
Yeah, join a union.
Learn how electricity works. All right. I'm sure they know out there somewhere. So Michael's got big dreams. And Tommy's just kind of hanging on to his every word.
He idolizes his older brother.
Of course.
Yeah. Different than the Goonies.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So we're spinning in our own way. And then we come to the kind of female best friend of Michael's for life, who they are actively ignoring that they're perfect for each other.
Maggie,
great, love these names, man. Wasn't the 80s great? A
really?
simpler time.
Like the 80s came with a roster of 20 names you could choose.
That's it. You were limited in the hospital. You didn't even have to
And,
think.
and
You just
once
picked.
the 90s happened, they were gone.
That's it. Everything went out the window. All went to hell. Thanks a lot, Clinton. All right, so okay. So we've got what's her name? Maggie. Got it.
Maggie is Michael's like longtime best friend. Correct. Who's a female, kind of like Dawson and Joey and Dawson's Creek.
We've all seen this before. We're not remaking the wheel here, people.
Is there any sort of tension or like love interest that seems, or is it like do we really come off here as like we're just friends, like Clarissa and Sam from Clarissa?
Oh no, I
think
the audience like immediately. I think if we're maybe this is too cliche, but like she has had feelings for him beyond friendship forever, and Michael's just too distracted about trying to get out of this town
to even leave in Stroudsburg
to be in the moment. He wants to escape this place so bad, and I think he is good at hockey, but like
he doesn't realize that he's got everything. He
got everything he needs right here. Yeah, we'll see.
Except for canned potatoes.
Right, he misses the meat. Right, he's got visions of docks and eating spinach and getting stronger. But we'll see what happens with Michael and where this journey takes him. Maybe this is the Popeye origin story. There's a war going on, and the Navy's looking for young, strong boys to fight.
If only we would have had spinach, I could have dug us out of that tunnel.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So, all right, perfect. So we've got stupid Brad and his cool hair. We've got Tommy, who loves Michael, who's going through some stuff and trying to escape Stroudsburg Valley, and Maggie, who doesn't know what she wants to do, and that kind of frustrates her father. Her mother understands, but really all she cares about is trying to I don't know, not let Michael go.
And like, not to be I don't know what the word is right now, but right. Not to be a dick, but
that probably works.
It's the 80s.
Yes.
And we're in a very small isolated town, so a lot of the advancements that are happening haven't made their way to Stroudsburg yet. Like, Maggie's probably content to like marry Michael and have a family with him because like she hasn't had exposure to other ideas yet, unfortunately.
That's right. Yeah, Maggie wears a burlap brown dress every day.
They still teach. It's one school in the community. The boys go to shop and math. The girls go to home ec.
That's right. It's like the village in the world. It's the 1980s. In this village, it's the 1880s.
Yeah.
No, we can't. That would be amazing, though. So then a plane flies over one day, and everyone freaks the fuck out. What is that? Is that a god? All right. So no, that's out. That's
throw rocks at it. No.
That would be something. Okay. So this is the last night of the trucks dropping off stuff. Now that we know our cast a bit and what they want, what they don't want, what they're trying to do. So, right, it's the last night. And let's say, I mean, avalanche on the trucks isn't a bad idea. I was just imagining like a fire happens so that maybe we can blame someone for something later. Maybe there's a villain.
The main thing is like that there's a catalyst, and that is that
throws them into action.
Our food supplies aren't going to get us collectively, the village, through this 3 months until we can get through the tunnel again.
Correct. Exactly right. So that happens, and maybe it's a fire. Maybe it's the trucks getting crushed.
This is like that. If it's not that, but like the catalyst will happen. Maybe a fire happens in the underground stores. Maybe the trucks arrive, but it took them too long, and the food's already spoiled before it got there.
How about this? Here we go. Here's a little wrinkle. Here we go.
Okay.
So Michael tried out for the hockey team, and like, you know, and he's a great skater, fastest skater in town. His father was the fastest skater when he played for the Stroudsburg Ice Vikings or the Avalanche or whatever the fuck we're gonna call it. And so, you know, destined for greatness. And when he goes to try out, he's like on the ice for a second, and like Brad just like decks him. Just, yeah, what are you doing on here? You know, like get back to your side of town. Like knocks the wind out of him, totally blindsides him. throws himself in his own head, and he tries to try out, but he's not feeling good. He just got the wind knocked out of him.
Checks him into the boards.
Checks him into the boards, sure. And then when he tries to do drills in the tryouts, he can't hit the puck. He's falling down, and the coach is like, get out of here, Michael. Try again next year.
Messed his skate up.
Sure. Okay. Yep. Messed his skate up. Maybe broke his dad's old stick.
Can't afford new skates.
Yeah, exactly right. Can't afford a new stick. So he runs home upset, beat up. He's got a black eye somehow. Tommy sees him. Oh, Michael, how'd it go? Did you make the team? Oh, not now, Tommy. And falls into the backyard. Oh, no, Michael, what happened? I'm all right. Just go inside. Put some soup on. Because they're kind of always rationing. And this is like kind of maybe this is how everything starts, actually, or maybe a slight flashback. But so that all happens, and then we need to see, though, is he kind of recovers from that, maybe quicker than you think. And Tommy, a lot of the time, will sit in their window of their house and watch Michael skate on the little frozen patch of basically mud in their backyard or whatever.
Yeah,
that he can skate on, which is what he does all the time. And it's clear as the audience when you watch it that Michael's not just good. Michael's doing things on the ice that maybe defy physics a little bit. He's quick. The puck's kind of stopping when he looks at it, and he's able to turn on a dime. And almost every time he shoots at the tiny little garbage can that's the goal, it goes in, like every time.
Yeah.
And Michael's never thought anything about it. He's just happy, kind of in the flow state, playing hockey on the ice. But Tommy is, even though he's younger, is kind of cluing in on when I watch the hockey games in the high school, they miss shots and people fall down, and I've never seen Michael do that. Something's going on with my brother. So as the audience, you're kind of you see that, and we'll make it kind of obvious that something with Michael on the ice and Michael have a different kind of relationship than anyone else in the town. And that's going to be important in this movie that's called Ice Melter.
Not Michael and Tommy,
right? So we have to set that up at some point. And also that helps build the backstory of why Brad and him hate each other. Brad doesn't like him because Michael's a better skater, and Brad probably knew that, which is why he took him out at the start of the tryout, so he would threaten Brad's starting spot. It was a hit job. But Nancy Kerrigan, no, I didn't do it that bad. But keep the tradition alive. Okay, so we know that as an audience.
For anybody listening or watching that is younger, there was a time in American history where there was a really big deal about the American figure skating women, and it seemed like Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding were gonna battle it out. And then Nancy Kerrigan got hit with a pipe.
Yeah. Yes.
And people thought that's weird. And then they found out that Tanya Harding actually hired a hitman of sorts to injure Nancy Kerrigan and keep her from going to the Olympics. Do anything for gold.
That's it. Great movie with Margot Robbie called Tanya.
They
whatever.
made a movie about that?
They did. It's hilarious. It's funny-ish. When it should be. A lot of people in it. Anyway. Okay. So, all right, move this thing forward. All right. So
Michael's got an innate connection with the ice.
With the ice.
It becomes obvious as we're watching this through Tommy's eyes.
It's almost like the ice is helping him skate better, move the puck for him, stuff like that. So, okay. So the fire and the avalanche or whatever happens. Everyone's freaking out. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's the avalanche happens and the elders are like, it's okay. Half the trucks are in. We'll try to dig out and save the men stuck in the tunnel, but the avalanche happened. It happened early. It's happened early before. Nothing to worry about. Maybe we should also introduce a town elder that becomes pivotal to the story. And we got to give him a name, an older name, and talk about him a little bit.
Yep. So I wanted to be played by James Earl Jones if I have an unlimited budget.
Amazing.
And
Okay.
I'd like his name to be like Bagsy or something like that. He doesn't have a proper name. He's part of the village now.
Bagsy. That could be cool. Maybe he was the bag boy in the supermarket and rose his way up to be mayor of Stroudsburg Valley. Somehow got in with the right people. They just still call him Bagsy.
He's the mayor. He's the mayor of this very small town. Mainly, he's the elder. He knows the history and the lore, and he's the person in town you go to when you need, like when something's not working right. Like, hey, the crops aren't growing this year like we thought. Oh yeah, that happened 20 years ago. I don't love the name Bagsy for him. I know it doesn't matter a whole lot, but.
Okay, maybe it can be. We can change it. This is our movie, John.
Maybe they call him Pipes.
Pipes.
No,
that's good because he worked in the steam room, heating the town, and rose up. He doesn't need to be. I was imagining this elder being a villain. We also need another elder that is gonna be kind of the guide.
Ooh, nope. Okay, I retract my previous James Earl Jones, although he did play a good villain once.
Great villain.
So instead, so this town elder. Ooh, okay. So his name is Pierce. Pierce.
Okay, I like that. Pierce.
And he's
Professor Pierce.
Professor Pierce. He's the school board supervisor.
Okay.
He's not the mayor. He doesn't have the public, but he's like the objector. You know, we need to commercialize town. We need to get a proper grocery store in here. We can't just have Jimmy's family run the whole thing. They barely can keep in stock as it is. It's a small operation.
Yep.
So Professor Pierce, God, that's so Marvel. But I don't know who he's played by. I guess it doesn't matter a whole lot. But yeah, he's maybe he comes off as like intelligent, somewhat arrogant, cocky. He's like he's never left town, but he feels like he's better than town.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Feels like the town owes him something. All right. So Pierce, he's just been around for a while, helped him through other hard times. Everybody kind of trusts him. But really hasn't been challenged like this. So avalanche happens. Calls everyone in the town square together. We're going to be fine. Only lost a few trucks. We'll help dig who we can out.
It'll be a leaner winter, but we got enough supplies.
Got enough in,
we don't
more
have to
than
worry.
enough. We all know this, and everyone kind of laughs it off a little bit, even though a horrible tragedy just happened in the tunnel. But and maybe they rescue one guy out of a truck there, and maybe he's useful or not later. But okay, so everyone goes to sleep. And then they're awoken that night to like the warehouse where all the rest of the food is being stored is on fire. They're woken up to flames in the night.
Yeah, and I in my head immediately I go to like everybody fades and goes to sleep and the screen goes to black and you hear like a dung and it's like an old bell ringing. You're like, all right, maybe that's the morning bell, and then it quickly, as Harrison alluded, becomes clear that it's actually a fire bell, and people start panicking and
freaking out, run towards it. The fire department's there, but they're basically just shooting BBs at a freight train. They don't have enough the capability to put out a fire.
There's not like a ladder truck or anything.
Exactly right. Yep, it's just the guy with the biggest inflatable pool throwing the water. No, it's just
a bunch of fire extinguishers, and people got their garden hoses they're running with.
Right, throwing wet towels at it. It's not doing anything. No, they don't have success putting the fire out, so it just burns all night, and it's dramatic, and people are now starting to freak out a little bit.
Popcorn's popping.
There we go. All the corn's popping, and it smells like fresh popcorn. The smell of doom. At least it's warm though in this cold ass town.
True.
But
it's somber.
Yeah, and so the morning sun breaks, investigating the rubble as the fire kind of extinguishes itself out. Thankfully, it doesn't jump to other houses somehow. And then it's clear everything's gone, and so nobody really knows what to do. They're going to call a town meeting that night, and that's the plan, though. Professor Pierce
kind of gets. We need to have a meeting now.
He gets together with some of the other shady townsfolk, the rich ones that kind of look like jerks. Gets together with them briefly and kind of pulls them all aside as the fires are burning, and they start in hush whispers talking about stuff, and everyone's getting all worked up. And then the next day they're like, all right, we'll have a town meeting tonight, and maybe as this is all happening, maybe Maggie overhears Professor Pierce basically saying, like, and the other people that we're going to learn to hate in this movie, the other elders, if you will, basically talking like, what we need to do is we need to go house to house. We need to take everyone's food, and we will be the ones to decide who eats what and when they eat it. And like, we can't have certain people hoarding things. Exactly right. So food Gestapo. Exactly right.
I'll have uniforms for us tomorrow.
That's right.
My wife Barbara will get to sewing.
It'll have SS on the side for savory soups, because we're just gonna make soups. It's the best way to feed a village, is a big old soup every night. No,
if you don't contribute any food to the cause, you'll be branded.
We'll mark you in a certain way. Okay, so they so she overhears that, and she's like, oh my gosh, like, they're gonna come and take all our food. So she goes to Michael, and Tommy tells them, like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And maybe it's how about it's like Michael and Tommy's neighbor is gonna be the so Michael's dad's out of the picture. We don't know what happened. Maybe some tragic accident. Michael doesn't even know.
Your dad used to be the best skater,
right?
When he was
exactly
around.
When he could still walk and was alive.
Yeah, it's an '80s movie. You don't need to explain things.
Sure, right. We'll leave it ambiguous.
Disbelief.
That sounds fun. And then so raised by his mom, who works all the time because she's got 2 kids, and has to help run all the food, which is now mostly gone, but still she's busy all the time. So the neighbor takes an interest in them. Older guy. This is like the James Earl Jones character in my mind.
Okay,
like
good.
he
is
in the Sandlot, almost just like a old guy who's seen the world and seen a lot once you get to know him. And so it's all happening, and clearly Michael and Tommy and Maggie are distressed, and he on his porch is like, what's going on? Like, what are they saying down in the square? I can't get down there. Me and my hip. I sit on the porch in the freezing cold, bundled up in a parka, and just with my whale blubber stove here, keeping me warm, even though we're in a mountain and there's no whale. My bare blubber stove. Keeping warm, trying to fight away the cold. I can't feel my fingers and my toes. But he's got a lot of wisdom in that brain still, and he's seen a lot. So
as we know, wisdom is learned.
So thanks for that. Whoever Tired Hands, whoever did that,
yeah.
I don't remember. So I think it was Saint Darius. So they so he overhears them kind of talking excitedly and panicking a little bit about, like, Maggie bringing the news to Michael and Tommy about this plan to take everyone's food and be the food police. And he's like, so inquires about it, asking about it. And he immediately is like, he kind of goes white as a sheet, as white as James Earl Jones can go. And is like, oh, this has happened before. Like, this has happened before. And they're like, what? Like, your father. And all he says is your father to Michael, and then says nothing. So we keep building on Michael's father's backstory as this mysterious who knows what. And he's like, it's before you kids were born. Nobody talks about it, but this isn't the first time. It starts with the food, and then they come for the women, or whatever he's saying.
But first they take your canned potatoes, then they come for your sweet, warm nether regions.
That's right. Everybody shares everything in this town. You know that. That's why you're both here. No, so
the story of Mormon.
Right. That's right. It's Salt Lake City. We forgot to mention that. Those are the mountains. So he doesn't say that, but he clearly knows, like, I've seen this movie before. This is going to be bad. Worse than you guys even realize. Like, we need to do something about it. And so this is when things are going to take a turn, and we're either going to lose half the audience, or they're going to think this is the coolest movie ever. So here's what I see, John, happening, basically, is like, So he pulls him into the house and pulls him into the basement.
Is this the lore of the town that you promised me an hour ago?
This is it. A lot of buildup. We need to get to James Earl Jones's bear stove, and now we can talk about the lore. So here's what I'm seeing or thinking. Basically, it's like pulls him to the basement, talking about like no one's supposed to know about this. They told us how to talk about it, but I didn't forget. I never forget. I knew someday this would matter. So essentially, what the rest of this movie is going to be is this quest they go on into the mountains to find this cave, where inside this cave there is a magical kind of laser sword called Ice Melter that can get them out of this town. So this becomes like a He-Man Excalibur type movie where they have to find a magical sword that saves the village. And that sword is called Ice Melter. Ice Melter.
I want to find something that I want to change about this, but you know what? No, it's an 80s. It's an 80s movie. High school movie. That's kid. Right. Everybody wants to be Michael. Right. Everybody wants to be tasked with. Or obviously Michael's not tasked with it yet, but right. You see where it's going.
Yes.
We have to find so James Earl Jones' character, who in my head I'm just going to refer to as Hank.
Perfect.
Harold, but he goes by Hank.
Yeah, naturally.
And he's like, okay, so this happened before we were locked in. We didn't have food stores. Half the town was trying to figure out a way to do it in a very sort of German police way that a lot of us didn't like.
Yep.
And somebody older than me, my version of Hank, was like, hey, there's this legendary sword that is part of this mountain town, which is why we're here. We protect the sword, and it has the ability to carve through the ice and get us out.
Correct. And this is another what actually happened. So the last time this happened, it was right before oh boy, how's Tommy gonna exist? Hold on. It was
the beast at the door gave Tommy to his mom.
So it'll have to be like when Michael was really young. So maybe it wasn't before their time. We can figure out the timelines and the details, but the bigger takeaway is that Michael's and Tommy's dad was the last one to try to get the ice melter, and he never came back. And no one knows what happened. And we'll learn that, like, Professor Pierce stopped him, because if anyone can melt the ice, then Professor Pierce's power is gone. So he needs to be able to, at least for 3 months out of the year, be their god, or he dies because he's a small person inside.
And they need that.
Right. He needs
that. So Hank tells the story years ago to Michael and Tommy's dad.
Yep.
And then there was a close call, like maybe a famine-y sort of winter where things were okay, but it was really tight. And he was like, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. I'm capable. I'm going to go get the sword. And Hank was like, no, don't go. And so then it will go back a little bit and build in the fact that Hank was really cautious about telling this tale to Michael, because
right, if you like, your father died and your father was the strongest of all of us, and the last thing I want you to do is you kids trying to get up there. But now that things are this bad, he sees what's coming. Maybe together, if you all go, all three of you, but you may need more than just the three of you. And so, like, that's where Brad can enter the picture and try to redeem himself. And maybe that even happens in the way I see that happen. So, okay, so before we get there, so they're both kind of like, all three, Maggie and Michael and Tommy, are kind of in shock. Like, Michael and Tommy are like freaking out, sad, like, that's how my dad died. And Hank doesn't know. Hank's like, he just never came back. Like, we'll learn later as they like go through this adventure that, like, clearly their father was murdered by Professor Pierce. They'll discover something on the quest,
like a Chester Copperpot Goonies throwback. I love it. Love it.
Right, exactly. So yes, something like that. So they will. So they're kind of freaking out. Maggie's trying to, comfort him, and, hey, Michael, pay attention to me. I'm here for you when you need me. And he's just like, I wish I could just skate my feelings away. But he can't this time. He can't run. He can't skate from this. His mom's freaking out too. She's, in the basement just crying because they don't have enough food, and she doesn't even know they're going to come and take what they do have. So it's, so this is like the opportunity they have to be like, I'm not going up some mountain to some ice sword. This is ridiculous. But then he sees his mom crying and his brother and Maggie and Hank, and he's like, oh, no one else knows about this. What am I going to do? Just watch this guy come and take all our food, and now we're beholden to, a couple crumbs a day, or am I going to do something about it?
This is cool. This is like a good pivotal, like we're entering now we've taken your comfortable Stroudsburg village, and you're now going to enter sort of an uncomfortable place that requires you to change.
Exactly. He's got to do something. He wanted to do something different his whole life. And now he's got his chance. Is he up to the task? And so the next morning, they gather whatever supplies they can, take some food, pack up some stuff. He grabs his hockey stick that's all bandaged up because who knows, just in case he uses a walking stick.
Maybe we'll shoot some pucks while we're out there.
You don't know what'll happen out there. Maybe some of the downtime. And so him and Tommy and Maggie are like setting out early in the morning. And so Hank knows like basically generally where the cave is, and it's on like the far side of this valley. So they've got to go across like a plain, and there's an ice river. You can kind of see this from the town. There's a big field, an ice river. There's kind of a forest, maybe a little bit. Then just like a 90-degree incline that goes up, and then up there somewhere is the cave,
up this rocky, icy cliff face,
exactly,
which has to be climbed up there. There's a plateau, and somewhere up there is the entrance to this cave.
Exactly right. And he's got not a map because maybe that's too on the nose, but Hank's like, like
landmarks.
Like before you, right, exactly right. It's like before your father left, he figured out where to go and memorize it. He left this behind in case we ever needed it. And it's like his father's journal, and it's got and he takes that with him. And that's a fun thing where you can read a journal entry every night as they're on their quest of, that's talking about how much his father loves their kids and, blah, 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 blah.
I'm going to get this sword so my family doesn't have to worry about this.
Right. So somehow even though the journal's back with Hank, somehow
I want my son to be able to live in Stroudsburg and have the success that I did. And he's like, man, that's not what I want.
Right, there we go. Good. Right, because what he wants is his son to be happy. But right. He'll learn that as he goes through. His version of happy is different than his father's, which, again, we all know that. So he's got the landmarks of when you cross the river near the two old oak trees, that's where the ice is the thickest, and in the plains, watch out for the sinkholes, they'll be near the bushes with the red berries or something. So we've got little things like this.
This would be drawn up more in a script meeting.
We'll dive into this deep, of course, when this becomes a real movie. The woods will have all kinds of problems in it. I don't know if a pack of wolves in a valley is believable that doesn't kill the whole town, but maybe there's a pack of wolves in the woods they got to
maybe a lone, there could be an opportunity for a lone wolf,
one or two,
to come by, maybe while they're trying to set up for camp, and you hear a howl, and Michael looks up and he grabs his hockey stick, and he get that eye contact with it's just one wolf. They never travel alone. They're always in packs.
I tell you what. Okay, so how about this? So something else. Another wrinkle we could add to this to up the stakes and the ante a little bit is so they're in this valley. Got it. It's a big valley. It's not just the town. It's huge. This is miles big. The town only takes up a quarter of it, as we've kind of established. Then you've got the plains, the river, the forest, and then the other side of the mountain. Maybe maybe not a wall around the town, but maybe there is guard towers or something. Like maybe wolves are a problem in the winter every once in a while. Maybe it hasn't been in a while.
Well, and they could be like they're pretty nomadic,
right? So
like,
that's what
I'm
thinking.
If they're not finding food, they could get out and about,
right? And like maybe like they haven't been an issue in 100 years or 50 years or something, but there's still like one job of the town is to like be in the guard towers in the north part of town just to watch for wolves at night. And they probably have like, if we're being realistic here, I mean, they probably do have like, this is kind of ridiculous that they're relying all their food to be like packaged goods. They probably have like cows and shit. Like they probably have a farm in there.
Yeah.
You can't grow anything in the winter, obviously, but they probably have like
definitely
a couple of cattle
farmland.
and shit. So they've got to like have people watching out for the wolves. So let's say they're wolves. That's fun. But in that warehouse, maybe that's also where like a lot of the ammunition or a lot of the something like the kerosene for the lamps they use in the guard towers is what started the fire. So they can't even really protect the town from the wolves. Again, they haven't been there in a while, but I think what we'll see in the audience is when the avalanche happens and this big boom, for whatever reason, like the wolf pack is close enough that year to hear it and like comes over the mountains. And so you kind of see that too, is like shit's going wild in the mountains. And then the flames that night happen in like the warehouse, and the wolves see that and like can smell all the food cooking. And they're like, great, that's where we're going to go. We're going to eat whatever the hell's there.
And this can be done with an easy insert shot.
Yes.
Sometime in the earlier part of this movie.
Yep.
Before the fire happens, you just have somebody like there's storage facilities, food, fresh food, and equipment, and there's like guys that have the kerosene, and they're like, you can't leave this here. We got to bring it to the equipment storage bunker. And he's like, I can't do it today, man. I'm exhausted. I'm just gonna set it down here, and that's it. Like that little. In maybe one or two things, but it's going to foreshadow what's coming to the audience. But it also explains the fire.
Explains the fire, and then right now the wolves are bearing down in the town, which they don't know that yet. But again, that can kind of give the ice melter some things to slice and dice when we get it. Not just ice. Okay, this is great. So they got the gear they need. They're gonna set it on their quest. They have the little map book journal thing. Brad has to jump in though here, and I think the way it happens is like just like any other spoiled rich kid, like he gets up early for no good reason, but sees like out his window like three people kind of walking out in the plains in the morning light, and kind of can identify, like sees the hockey stick on one of the bags, maybe grabs his dad's old binoculars, says like, that's Michael. That jerk, what do you think he's doing? He's going to get us all killed. We need another avalanche. Like, what are they up to? And like takes it upon himself to like try and, be junior police officer, right? And go out there and stop them. So unprepared, no supplies, runs out there basically in just like a jacket and boots and pants and stuff, and is ready just to like try to beat him up in the snow to stop Michael from doing this stuff. So like Brad kind of cuts him off, tries to do that, realizes like he's no match when he's got Maggie and little Tommy there, and they're not on skates, and Michael's got like the rage of my father died, and he's all jacked up on I got shit to do, I'm not messing around. And so Brad thinks he's gonna beat him up again like he did on the ice. Nope. Michael wins this round, knocks him around enough to like get him to stop, and like back and forth happens. Get out of here, Brad. You wouldn't understand. We're looking for people that we're trying to help. You go back to being a rich kid sitting in your nice warm house where
got plenty of food anyway.
Exactly right. Enjoy that while you can. What do you mean while you can? And they're like, should we tell him? Like, and they're like, nah, he's probably not even gonna bother with him. Because they think maybe Brad's immune to like getting their food all taken and stuff. And maybe as Brad's running out of the house, he like runs past his dad who's in the driveway. Like, what do you mean our food? Like, Pierce, what are you doing? We had an understanding here. Why are you taking our food? So, and he just sees that for a moment and it's like, Dad, I gotta go. Brad, come back. Wait, I'll be right back, Dad. So he sees that happening to his own home, gets out there, tries to fight Michael, kind of distracted because some dude's taking all their food. Then that back and forth happens, and he's like, you're probably fine. You got plenty of food. They're coming for the rest of our food. He's like, what do you mean? There were people at my house today with our food. What are they doing with it? What do you guys know? And so now Brad's in. Now they have a shared enemy, shared goal, and they kind of have to like swallow their pride a bit. And maybe Maggie moderates that because obviously Michael doesn't want him there, but she's like, really, the more people that help us do this, like, we're gonna have to do something that no one's done before.
And I think that Brad, do you have a camp stove or whatever? Right. And he's like, yeah, we have those things. He's like, can you get those? If you're coming, can you get those? So then it gives Brad a little opportunity to kind of earn his
contribute. Yep. Perfect. So he runs back. He does grab some supplies. And so they all head out together. And so this nice tension the whole trip. It's, Michael and Brad kind of hate each other. Maggie's in the middle, just confused as all get out, but really kind of just focused, happy to have something to like focus on, because her whole life she's just like, what do? I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to be. And Tommy's just happy to be hanging out with his brother and part of the adventure, and says,
little bro
says funny things like,
he's a little comedic relief. I like that.
He's the comedic relief. Exactly. So, okay. So the first thing I gotta do is
tell me, did you bring toilet or did we bring toilet paper?
I thought you brought toilet paper. Right. Exactly.
And I also, not for nothing, but I think it'd be interesting, depending on where this goes, if Brad starts kind of flirting with Maggie a little bit.
Yes, of course.
And like Brad needs to overcome the douchery that we've painted him in the beginning, but with going to get the supplies and like asking questions and like, oh, he's really not that bad, and starts flirting with Maggie a little bit. And we show some stories about how Maggie's always loved Michael, but he's never paid attention to her, and now Brad is. So the audience might start thinking he's not that bad. Maybe him and Maggie end up together.
Yep, exactly.
I just want Maggie
Michael's
to end up
blowing
happy.
It. Exactly right. Put Maggie happy. Maybe we gave Brad a bad rap. Michael's kind of a wet blanket, or so they think. Yeah, so that's good. They can have a little bit, and that kind of wakes Michael up to be like, I feel weird when Brad's being nice to Maggie. What is this feeling? Is this jealousy? Why am I jealous of my friend? Wait a second, Maggie made me feel funny in the bathing suit area. I never noticed it before. So all right. He's never worn a bathing suit because of the ice town, but so okay, perfect.
Just a shower.
They're privates, even to me. I get to see them once a year. All right, so on the deprivating, they're my favorite day. So they will. And every boy turns 17. Okay, now a lot of weird things in this village. A lot of weird holidays no one else celebrates. A lot of weird traditions.
When's your deprivating day?
I think it's coming up 3 Tuesdays from now.
It's different for girls. It happens at 14.
Right, they don't control when it happens.
Much older man there.
Oh Lord. So okay, now all right, so they're on their quest. The first up is the field, the plains. So they get out there, navigating stuff, and maybe like, so obviously like all night. I mean, obviously we didn't say this, but like I'm imagining Michael before they leave that whole night he's like reading his father's journal. Maybe that's when he reads it all. So he's kind of like read it. He's read it all before they even head out. And is able to basically remembers most of it. So I say as they get into the fields, like he pulls the book out, and maybe it like either like blows away in the wind. That's too obvious. Or maybe here we go. They're like Brad and Michael are just arguing. They get into the field and they come up to a couple different bushes. They got the red berries and the blueberries or whatever. And they're not even paying attention to where they're going. Maggie's like, are we supposed to do something with this? Isn't the red berry bush? Did we go towards that one, or what do we do? And the two, Michael and Brad, are arguing, and she just kind of is like, oh, whatever, blows by him and just takes a guess that like going towards the red bush is better. Ground falls out from under her, and immediately both Michael and Brad are like, oh shit, dive to grab her. She's hanging on to like the roots of the berry bush with just an endless pit beneath her. And as Michael dives to grab her, the journal flies out of his backpack into the pit. So the journal's gone.
Nice.
Whatever we know about it is whatever's in Michael's head. But they like pull Maggie up, and that's kind of a wake up moment to everybody else. And Maggie gives it to him of like, you guys got to put your differences behind you. Like, we're trying to save the whole town here. Like, you got to stop bickering. I almost died. And so that's a nice cold splash of water at everybody's face. And then Tommy says something funny. We got it. Tommy's going to keep everyone in their seats in this movie because it's going to get intense. But Tommy will say funny things like, I haven't seen a hole that big since no, maybe not.
Is that what you meant when you said hand job?
You said you wanted to give Maggie a hand job. Is it happening? Or give you her hand? Is it happening? No. When you grabbed her hand, quiet, Tommy. Yeah, that would be amazing. So something like that. Love it. Tommy's going to be fun to write. And then, okay, cool. So they're like, the red bushes, those are the bad ones. Navigate through the field and get to the river. And now they're like, no journal. Shit, what do we do? And so Michael's like, I remember this. It's the big oak trees. We got to go there. And, Brad's like, just like the red bushes. Like, I know what I'm doing. They're still going at it. Go up the stream. They're looking for it. And maybe that's the first time they like see wolf tracks. They're like, oh shit, what is this? Is this new? This could be years old, right? Like, no, it snowed 2 weeks ago. Like, and they're right here. And so they're like, oh my God, we're not alone out here. And the wolves for the movie, maybe you really don't even see them that much. They're kind of just representing just like another element of nature, just like that humanity's always up against. They don't need to necessarily even attack them ever. Just like be out there until the end. I do have a plan.
Okay, but they're a good motivating kind of like now Maggie almost falling down to her death.
Exactly right. Now and it just keeps everything getting more real. The stakes keep getting higher. They're kind of freaking out a little bit. They feel like they're under their or over their capability, whatever. They can't. They're what is the word? Over their ability. They're over their
out in
head.
Front of their
they're
skis.
under. There we go. The skis and they're in front of them and they're gonna fall on their face. But they get to that part of the river where the ice is thickest, get across it. Maybe this is when like Tommy kind of tries to go across quicker and goes out too wide. Ice cracks, grab Tommy, save Tommy. But he's wet. So now they got to make camp that night, make a fire, get the stove out. It shouldn't matter. And then, okay. So that happens. Save Tommy.
So Tommy's now all wet, and that's a great, like, okay, we got to stop making progress, and we got to set up and take care of camp. Ourselves.
And they kind of got to, like, do it in a way where the town doesn't see them. Meanwhile, so back in the towns, we'll probably go back. So now this is the town, door to door, taking people's food. Everyone's crying. They fight Hank. Maybe they, like, Hank's like, you'll never take my food. And they knock him off the porch, and he, like, breaks a leg or something. So now, like, Hank's really in trouble. Even more so, and Michael and Tommy's mom is trying to tend to him. So they're just to add to Professor Pierce being a D-bag. We got to keep making him look horrible. So he pushes old Hank off the deck, taking people's food, moving it like into the church, into the back of the school. It's back of the school, let's say this time. Has learned his lesson. Still consolidating food, even though a single warehouse fire took out all their food. Still thought it was good to get the food in one place again because he's an idiot, because he's never left this small little dust bowl of a town. Never really seen anything, but he doesn't know that. So, okay, so that's all happening.
He thinks he's seen it all.
All right, town's getting worse. And also maybe in the town, like one of Professor Pierce's henchmen who's like, just kind of, here we go.
The sheriff?
No, okay, sure. A sheriff character. Perfect. We can use that. And we'll just, what should we call the sheriff?
Sheriff Bill?
Sheriff Bill. Love it. Bill. Old Billy boy. So he's souping around, being a bit of an enforcer, but really like much more so it's easy to knock someone over and take their food. He's trying to see who's trying to be sneaky, who's trying to hide stuff. And in doing that, maybe kind of walking in the outskirts of town, sees the camp, the fire in the distance where the kids are camping out in that night near the river. But as he looks at it and he's like, what the heck is that? Looks down and there are wolf tracks around the village too. And he's like, oh shit, I got to go to Pierce with this. So he tries to get Pierce's attention, but he's like, yeah, Bill, just take care of it. We're in the middle of, saving the town. We got to get everybody's food. We got to get everyone together. So Pierce kind of dismisses it, doesn't give him the resources he needs to figure out if these wolves are in the town or if this is a dog track or what's he dealing with here. So that's all happening in the town as the camp is happening. And maybe the first night of the camp, because it's not going to be, it's probably just going to be one night and then we're at the hill the next day and we're going up. So it's not a gigantic valley. We're halfway to where we need to be for these guys. They talk about stuff. Maybe this is where we learn about Brad and, boo-hoo, my dad doesn't love me. Maybe that's his story, and that's why he's such a jerk, because he hates living. He's got to, right. He hates that that he feels this way. That he feels like he's got to always prove himself to his dad, who never comes to his games anyway, but he's still got to try to be the captain of the team and yada, yada. So Brad becomes a human. We learn more. Everyone kind of just goes around in a circle, says a little more about themselves, and that's nice for the audience. So we get a chance.
A little bit. You want, otherwise Brad's just a douche and Michael's a skate man.
Right,
so
right.
give him a little
Weird
bit
magic ice guy.
Except for Tommy.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
one time I pooped so long it curled around the toilet.
I think about that poop every day.
Thanks, Tommy.
Cool,
Glad
Tommy.
you're here with us.
Keeping us warm with all the hot air. Okay. Now, morning breaks, they wake up, have them eaten by wolves. Great victory. So next up is through the woods, which that's just through the woods. And maybe this is where they kind of encounter the wolves. And perhaps this is where kind of Brad gets to step up and Michael together. They kind of work together to just fend them off. So they're kind of, and this could be a good, like, this scene will be like a victory that quickly turns into a defeat. So like they're kicking at the wolves, throwing snowballs at them. They take Tommy's like stick that was broken by Brad and they like take it apart again. They re-break it at the same point it broke, and now Brad has a weapon and Michael has a weapon. So this thing that was bad is now beneficial, and they're able to kind of poke a few of the wolves away, and Maggie hits them with the camp stove or whatever, and Tommy just hides in a tree the whole time. And so they defeat this 4 or 5 pack of wolves, and they're like, we did it, like, we together, yeah. And as they're celebrating, they look and just see that the wolves are just running towards the town. They're like, oh God, like, what do we do? Do we have to split up and go back? Like, well, we'll never make it alone. Like, what if someone falls in the river again? What if someone falls in a pit again in the field? Like, we got to keep going. We'll go and we'll get back, and we'll tell them somehow. So that happens. Get to the ice wall. Got to climb this thing. I don't know how this happens. I don't know if we're using ice picks, if we got ice cleat things in our shoes. I had a half thought of like, so we're doing what you would expect, kind of traditional ice climbing stuff that these kids somehow know how to do. And that's maybe not that unbelievable. Town, exactly. Yeah. So that's okay. But I think this is like an opportunity to like once again show that Michael has some kind of weird connection with the ice. So like he's able to climb up quickly and like pull people up with him, and Brad's kind of like, this is weird how good you are at this, man.
Yes, like it's a good like Brad's like, let me try, I can do this. And he's trying, he's having hell with it, and like, Maggie, you were like good at climbing the rope in gym class.
Right.
Can you see if you can get up there? And she's like, I wish I had my equipment, but I don't know if I can. And then finally they're like, all right, Michael, you're up next, and he just like dances right up to the top, and he's like, I'll throw. Right. Do we have a rope? Can we give him a rope?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna throw a rope down for you guys, and then just I'll help hoist you up.
I love that. So perfect. So Michael kind of dances right up there, pulls them up the rest of the ice wall. Everyone's kind of like, all right, weird, but great. No time to process. We're trying to save a village.
He's just got handles like wherever he's going, and it's just working for him.
Just like he's flying almost.
It's a mixture of up there. Wow, he got really lucky and climbed that.
Right,
and
exactly.
It's not overtly magic about
exactly
him?
Right. It's something. How is he that good? It's like he's floating. His connection to the ice melter. Okay, so they get up there, and then it could just be as simple as like, there's the cave, and we go in there. Maybe there's not a minotaur. They got a fool. There's nothing. I think we've done enough tasks, because we got to get all the way back and then deal with all the wolves in the village and they get the hell out of here. So we got plenty of stuff in front of these guys. But so they get in there. There's a cave. They go through it. Maybe there's some like old cave paintings. We do have to kind of figure out about their Michael and Tommy's father's death, and that like Pierce is clearly responsible for it. And this would be a good place to do that. And like maybe it's maybe it is like, I mean, there are a couple ways to do it. So like they get into the room where this ancient ice sword is. Probably too morbid to have like their dad there as like a skeleton on the ground.
That's what I was thinking, though.
Okay, all right, fine. Like, so let's do that.
Skeleton, not decomposing or anything, but like the skeleton, and then just something to identify that it was him. A wedding ring.
Yeah, wedding ring. Sure, wedding
skates are on.
I was going to say, yeah, maybe like he's got his hockey stick as well. The other one that wasn't the one that he gave to his son, or.
Yes, oh my God, look at that. Like an old time skeleton, something ancient.
Right.
Hey, that's the same hockey stick that you had, Michael.
Right. Oh my God, is that Dad? Oh no. And they start to cry about it. And they're like, he got here. Why didn't he? And they kind of freak out and they're sad and they're crying. And they're like, why didn't he got here? Like, why did he not leave? And so like Maggie kind of bravely goes up to the body and like looks around and turns this main skeleton over, who still has clothes on because those didn't evaporate. And like you can see like a stab wound in the back of Michael of like a knife, or not Michael, of Michael's and Tommy's dad. Like knife wound in the back of his shirt. There's blood, dry old blood on it. And she's like, oh my God, like he was stabbed, he was betrayed,
he was pierced.
Right, exactly. And maybe like, so that's where I don't quite have this part. Like, is it easily identifiable? Maybe like this is maybe too on the whatever, but like, so Professor Pierce maybe walks around with a cane all the time.
Dude, I was just gonna say that. And we know that he has a cane, and then at some point later in the movie we see that the cane has a blade inside.
It's a blade. So it's a very thin, small blade because it's inside a cane, and so they see that size cut and they're like, was it a knife? Like if it was and Brad's like, it was like a pretty small knife if it was. Like, I don't know, man, but someone definitely betrayed your father. Like that makes something
literally stabbed in the back.
Stabbed in the back. So they have their moment. They bury their dad in the snow and the ice. And maybe the ice like almost grabs him and like absorbs him into the mountain or something.
Well, I'm sure like Michael's like, we got to bury him.
Right.
And he could use some of his not identifiable ice magic to kind of dig entomb his father's remains.
Exactly. And like, and so then they're able to approach the sword. It's Excalibur, like it's in the ground. Basically.
Like Brad immediately goes for the sword.
Right. He's like, I'll grab the sword. You just finish this with your dad. And he's like, I can't get it. This is a waste. And they're freaking out. Right.
What do you know about getting the sword out?
Right.
It's not.
What was in that book? That book you threw in that pit. Come on, Brad. We're still ribbing each other a little bit. And so Maggie's like, just grab it and go. Stop goofing off, Brad. She tries to get it, can't get it. Tommy's like, well, let me try. Like, no, Tommy, don't touch that. It's a huge blade. You nincompoop, you're 10. Oh, all right. And then Michael's like, all right, I'll try it once. And he tries it. And at first, it doesn't do anything. And they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And he just kind of closes his eyes for a minute and grabs it again and then pulls it out. And maybe some cool synth music plays. He pulls it out and some cool space age 80s music happens for a moment. And this, now we're getting really 80s, which is okay. Maybe the mountain talks to him. Maybe hears a voice like Luke Skywalker and many other people have. Maybe not. It doesn't.
You
not
could definitely
necessary, but we could do it.
Like the voice of the cave.
Right. Played by Whoopi
Master.
Goldberg. Right. Right, but
hey, young man.
In between Sister Act 1 and 2, she took a weekend to record the voice of the cave. So, or whoever. But yeah, so like takes Ice Melter, this huge sword, out of the cave, out of the rock in the cave, does it. So they've got it. And so now it's probably night again, and maybe they do camp out there, which gives them a great view of like the whole valley and the village. And maybe that is when like they're sitting there all night talking again, reminiscing about their dad, about what's happened, what do we do next, talking about all their futures a little bit, even though like they have a mountain to climb still, a metaphorical mountain of dealing with all the problems in the town, but they're starting to look beyond that a little bit, maybe, and get to know each other better. And then perhaps they start to hear, like, in the distance in the town, just like, they look out and they're like, is that another building on fire? Like, oh my God, is that happening again? And then they kind of quietly listen, and it's like they can hear like distant screams and like wolf howls and stuff, and like it's begun. Like the wolves are in the town, starting to chase people around, kind of run on by surprise. The sheriff just kind of ignored it because he's not a good person, and Pierce is too busy.
He brought it to Pierce, and Pierce was like, "That's not our concern."
Yep. We just gotta get the food. Get the food, and we'll all eat like kings in the back of the school or whatever.
Me and you, Bill.
We'll hold hands and we'll eat together.
Don't touch my cane.
Do I have to hold your hand? Right. Don't touch my cane. So they're freaking out a little bit, but it's dark. They can't leave in the dark. So the sun comes up and they go as soon as they can down the mountain, through the woods, back across. It's quicker to get back.
Always.
And like, so zooming into the town, it's like, you know, Hank's broke his leg and he's been bleeding. So the wolves are scratching at their house and trying to get in right away because they can smell Hank's blood. And most of the food's in the middle of the damn town. Oh, I have a fun ending now. I've got it. So they're trying to get to Hank, and like they get there, and just as it's about to get bad, you know, they get into the house. Or they're in the house. Michael and Tommy and Brad and Maggie show up with the sword, and he uses it, which it's a sword, but also like, I'm imagining, well, we could stop me here, but like, if you point like this thing at something, it shoots a laser out of it.
It's got like an aura.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There we go. So it like, heats up almost like a lightsaber, and like, can cut through anything. So it gets in, the wolf's about to jump on Hank and his mom, and he comes in and chops it in half with one swipe, like a hot knife through butter. And the wolf is dead, covering Hank's small, already dirty home in wolf blood. But no one cares about that right now because he was about to die. So one wolf dead. Get Hank up, get the mom up, get him somewhere else safe. And then, so the way this could end for Pierce, which would be hilarious and amazing, is he's gathered all the food in one place. He's in there eating it like a fucking pig. And all the wolves are like, I smell where all the food is. It's in this fucking place. So all the wolves care about now that they couldn't get Hank's bloody body is where all the food is, because that's what brought him to the village in the first place. So they like are scratching at the door and trying to get in. And Brad and Michael and Tommy and Maggie see this, and Brad's like, this is, maybe they don't, because this make him kind of evil, but they get murdered by the wolves, the bad guys, Pierce and whatever. Get in there. Maybe Maggie and Michael decide not to kill the wolves and let them die.
I think killing the wolf is hard because, yes, the wolves are presented as like, but actually killing a wolf is hard to forgive Michael for that.
Yeah.
So I think for Hank, he's able to scare the wolf off. And then maybe talk to Hank and say like, and Hank's like, "Oh my God, you got the ice melter! Quick, we need to the trucks are out on the other side of the tunnel, and we can get this situation fixed quick." And he goes to the tunnel.
Okay. Got it. This is better.
And so we're chasing that goal.
Yep.
And then we can just come back and realize that the wolves
right.
The wolves, maybe they've eaten most of the food, but they've also taken care of Pierce and Bill. And after they've had their fill, they're gone. The truck lanes opened up again.
Yep.
And at some point then we go back and we see like, oh my God, the wolves got Pierce and Sheriff Bill.
Yep.
And that's when you see
the cane.
Pierce's cane.
Right. Pulls out
because he tried to use it to defend himself.
Maybe he does kill one of the wolves, and the stab wound is the same as in the
Pierce kills the wolf.
Pierce kills the wolf.
Evil.
He is evil. And it's the same kind of stab wound as was in Michael and Tommy's father. So that's how we know. Yeah, kills one wolf, but gets eaten by all the other ones. So Pierce is wolf food, wolf poop. But yeah, right. So they focus on, love that. Focus on the goal of freeing the village and saving his mom and saving everyone they know, and F Pierce. And what happens? He's dug his own grave. Let the wolves have at him. Let nature take Pierce back.
And maybe there's a way, like on Reddit, someone will be like, the wolves were really just a lesson against greed.
Sure. Yeah. They're just there to keep things in check.
Yeah.
Keep humanity in
I think
check.
they actually are.
I think they actually are as well.
There's a scene that we glazed over where Michael actually uses the ice melter to do what its namesake is.
Yeah, I mean, he'll melt the tunnel. Like, he'll like point it at it and like a huge laser, and it'll just like an '80s movie, like in Real Genius when he shoots the laser out of the plane and it boils to the popcorn in the house.
Yep,
I want it to be something like that. He's like, pew,
kind of over the top, but that's the exact sound effect that happens. And the ice just, it's not even special effects.
Yeah,
it's just icy, and then the next frame, the ice is gone.
Right, exactly right. And the trucks magically work that are stuck in the tunnel somehow, and all the guys aren't dead. They're just cold. I was stuck here with a bunch of food. I'm fine. So they can get out of the town. And then I think like the postscript to the story, how much we show this or not is up to us, but like, it's basically just made everyone in the town kind of question, like, is this the way we should be living our lives, subject to an avalanche every winter? And so maybe the town empties out and becomes a ghost town. Everybody kind of, maybe the town is kind of a metaphor for like everyone who just is kind of stuck in a rut or stuck in their comfort zone. Comfort zones can have their own kind of danger, because you become complacent, and that turns to unhappiness and lack of fulfillment and blah, blah, blah. You need to get out of that comfort zone, aka the valley, and go find out who you actually are. And so maybe this is like also like the end of Stroudsburg Valley forever. It becomes an empty place. Everyone finds their own reason to leave and go somewhere else. And sure, Maggie and Michael, they find each other. Brad goes and becomes a successful investment banker just as Wall Street takes off. Brad lands right where he's supposed to be.
I invented Adderall.
Right. You mean cocaine, right? It's Bradderall. Pew. Right. That's what he calls his cocaine.
Or you come back to town, similar rap, and then Michael and Maggie kind of have a heart-to-heart.
Yeah.
About how, like I've always thought of you as a great friend, but on this little journey, I kind of realized that there might be more to that.
Yep.
And Michael has to kind of realize, I mean, that no one else could grab the sword.
Yes.
His dad went for it. Michael's tied to this village.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe in the beginning he just wanted to leave there, but now he knows he's the only person that can keep this village safe.
Yeah.
Ice melter, metaphorically.
Yes.
Also in my head, I kind of like the idea of the ice melter morphing into a hockey stick.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Yes. Where is that sword? It's always nearby. And that could be like the last scene of the movies. He's playing in something like adult men's hockey league, or maybe he's like playing at a real college playing hockey. He made that team, and he's, doing pirouettes and spinning around people, and, another hat trick for Michael, the man from Stroudsburg Valley. How does he do it? And it's just like the game ends and he throws his stick over his shoulder, and you can just see that it says like ice melter. Yeah. And that's the last sound. Yeah. The last sound of the movie. But Maggie's in the stands and Tommy's in the stands.
He's going to school for like what is it, like agriculture?
Okay.
Like he's like, I'm gonna make this village where we can survive on our own. We don't need to worry about this.
I like that. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, ice melter's now a hockey stick. I love that. Always with him. And this is also ridiculous and doesn't line up with the timing, but it would be funny if like, if someone's like, oh, and some kid is in the stands is like, can I have your autograph, Michael? Sure. Who do I make it out to? Wayne. What's your last name, Wayne? Gretzky. He's like, oh, all right, cool, kid, and kind of pats him on the head, and some sprinkles of ice magic fall on Wayne Gretzky.
You're a great one, bud. Oh, God, that'd be cool.
Oh, my God. And that's how Wayne Gretzky became the great one, thanks to the ice melter. All right, well, that went where I didn't know. I mean, yeah. Totally different direction.
Honestly, I'd love to spend more time noodling on the interactions between,
of course,
these teenage kids going on an adventure to save their town. But I think, in a nutshell, making it up as we go. I think that there's enough bones to that story where I would want to write a screenplay for it, see how it worked.
Just the bones, folks. That's what we're doing here. Just the bones.
Which is also a movie. No, that's Bones and all.
Don't Google that. Right?
Just the Bone is a much different movie.
Much different. Holy guacamole. All right, so we did another one, John. We did it. We did another feature. The Ice Melter is a sick-ass sword. Yeah, I'm exhausted.
That one felt good. I'm eager to catch up on it next week, kind of see what you thought.
Yeah. I want to hear what you guys thought about it out there.
Scroll through your Untapped check-ins again. Let us know what you thought about Ice Melter. I think 80s teen movie was way more fun than I thought. Yeah. I'm glad we went that direction with Ice Melter. It's just such a comfortable story.
That's right. May you all find your own Ice Melter out there. It's waiting for you in some cave, metaphorical or not.
Perhaps. Until then, peace.
Punch and...
Give me your lunch!
Yeah! We're gonna